Well, now, the Liberal Democrat leader, Nick Clegg, has promised that public sector workers, like nurses and teachers, will get a pay rise if his party's in power after the election. Joined now by, as you can see, the Business Secretary and Lib Dem candidate, Vince Cable. Very good afternoon to you, Mr Cable. Now, this promise, this pledge to public sector workers, is this just another of these uncosted campaign promises?
No, it's an attempt to draw a line under a period in which public sector workers have taken real cuts. In other words, their pay was frozen, inflation was more than pay, and their real take-home pay was cut. And public sector workers have paid quite a heavy price for the financial crisis and its aftermath. And what we're arguing is that in future, certainly for the 3 years of consolidation ahead, public sector pay should rise in line with inflation, or at least in line with inflation, and beyond that, assuming the economy continues to grow, that public sector pay should grow in line with the economy more generally.
OK, you say it's not uncosted. What will be the cost in this financial year?
Well, there isn't a real cost because it's in real terms. There is no increase at all, and in the current year, 15-16, the pay has already been negotiated. So we're talking about 16-17, 17-18, as I say, pay remains the same in real terms, except there are bits of the public sector where we're already beginning to see scarcities emerging as a result of the success in reducing unemployment, and particular scarce categories of workers will need to be better rewarded. OK, well, let me rephrase it. What is the difference, the Lib Dems' difference in terms of cost from the Conservatives, the last government's pay freeze, which, if inflation went up, would be a real terms cut? What is the cost that the Lib Dems say will be to the Exchequer in 16-17 and 17-18? Well, there isn't a difference. We're sticking with the existing framework that it rises in line with inflation. The difference is this, that we're providing some stability, some clear assumptions about how public sector pay should be set in future. The difference is that we think the Conservatives would probably like to try to balance the book by making deep cuts in public sector pay.
Hold on, so we're misreporting this then, aren't we, Mr Cable? You're just saying things will stay the same. It's the same as current plans then, and you're inventing then that the Conservatives, you say, might cut public sector pay, but you just keep things as they are. So this isn't a pay rise at all you're promising.
Well, it is an end to cuts in public sector pay in real terms. That's the basic flaw that we operate from, and I think public sector workers will take some reassurance from that. But you're trying to pull the wool over everyone's eyes, aren't you? Because we know that, well, we know that inflation is 0% at the moment. It's zero. Were you saying that pay would go down then if it goes negative, as is the forecast? Well, inflation is we're very unlikely to get into a deflationary world, and indeed the IMF last week said that was highly improbable. No, we're not suggesting.
Well, the OBR is predicting that it could turn negative. Quoting Robert Choate from the Office of Budget Responsibility, they've changed their forecast, 0.2% overall for 2015, but that it could go negative in the second half of this year.
It could briefly do that, but the Bank of England, which is responsible for managing the monetary side of the economy, has a target of 2% inflation, and it's important that we have a certain amount of positive inflation. It would be very dangerous if over a long period of time prices fell. We're not fortunately in that position. We've got price stability, but it would be very dangerous if we got into a deflationary cycle. That isn't going to happen. The Bank of England's job is to make sure it doesn't happen. There will be some inflation, though probably not much, and the assurance we're giving to public sector workers is that their pay will rise in line with inflation.
OK, so what public sector workers listening to this will want to know is, will they get more money in their wage packet through the Liberal Democrats or through the current plans, the ones that the last government set? Will they get more from the Lib Dems?
Well, let's just have some real figures.
So that's a no.
a nurse on, say, 25,000 a year, then with the inflation that is currently expected, we're talking about a £350 increase. If you're talking about a teacher with a couple of years' experience on 35,000, you're talking about a £450 increase based on current assumptions. But the pay review bodies would have a very clear set of objectives, which they don't have at the moment.
But those on the lowest pay in the public sector, we know, are getting 1% pay increases, which is above the current rate of inflation.
That's right, and it would be desirable, if possible, to maintain that differential within the negotiating framework. But I was setting out a much more general commitment that we do not want in future to see continued cuts in public sector pay in real terms. That was the significance of the announcement today.
But you won't put a number on it, and you won't put how much above the rate of inflation you would reward those public sector workers.
No, because there are shortage occupations. There are bits of the National Health Service, certain teachers in certain areas where shortages are emerging, and we will have to see that pay is increased to attract them into the profession. But in blanket terms, what we're saying is very simple. That we've had a very severe period of difficulty in the public sector as a result of the banking crisis that we inherited. We're now wanting to stabilise the position, an end to cuts in real take-home. And remember also, the Liberal Democrats have argued and have succeeded in delivering increases in the tax threshold so that people at the lower and middle end of the tax range have got real take-home increases in addition to the pay itself.
Business Secretary, thank you very much indeed. Vince Cable there.